Watch last week's butterfly quilt blocks. You know we got a break this week. Hey, this is Carrie with Canary Quilts, and we are on week 2 of the Tula Pink butterfly quilt, second edition. I've got 2 videos out previous to this if you're new here. I've got one that kind of walks through the pattern, how I feel about it, what notes I made, and I walk through the fabric kit if you're interested. If you're not doing this with me or you kind of wondering about it, you can check the link down below, or I'll put it up above right here, and you can check that link out or check that video out and see what it's all about. And I've also got the first 2 blocks out, intersection and chunky cross. This week we're working on floating cross and stripes. So the floating cross is very similar to the chunky cross we did last week. It's just a bigger block and these center sections are bigger. But other than that, the construction's exactly the same. So what I do in this week's video is show you how I kind of mass produce these at once instead of doing one block at a time. And I go through the fabric choices on how I came up with my choices. And if you want to do the same fabrics, I've got them listed on my website, canaryquilts.com, and I have the link down below also, so you can go see the fabrics I used in each one of these blocks. Same with the stripes down here. You can see what fabrics I chose. These are pretty simple. They're just rectangles put together. But I also show you how I put those together in mass production, basically. You can stick around for that. Check out the links I have below for the website, for the previous videos, and for the products that I use in here. It really does help the channel out. You can hit subscribe and notification bell, and you can follow along the whole time as we get to the end of this and make this beautiful quilt. So let's get started on our blocks. Welcome back to week 2 of the butterfly quilt along, and this week we're going to be working on floating cross and stripes blocks. This first one I'm going to do is floating cross, and it's very similar, and it's constructed exactly the same as last week's chunky cross, except the dimensions are different. It's a bigger block, and then inside these dimensions are just a little bit different. Otherwise, it's going to be constructed exactly the same. The other thing I wanted to show you was my fabrics that I chose. Now, when looking at the quilt, their quilt on the front of the pattern, these 2 red and orange blocks here were made from these 2 materials, but they were interchanged. So this first block has this floral print on the inside. The second block has this floral print on the outside. So what I'm going to do is the dark fabric is number 1, but since these are going to be both blocks, I'm going to label them as 1 and 2 so I know to cut both dimensions out of these fabrics. And then the same with this fabric, I'm going to label it 1 and 2, so when I'm cutting I know I have to cut both out. So these are going to be, these 2 fabrics are going to be these first 2 blocks. So the second block shows the polka dot on the inside, which would be the number 2 fabric. So I'm going to label that number 2. And this manganite on the outside, whoops, yeah, outside, which is the number 1 fabric. So the inside's a number 2, the outside's number 1. And it's the same over here for this one, where the inside is the floral and the outside is the manganite. So manganite's going to get the number 1, this is going to get the number 2. And what these numbers are telling me, or when I look at my fabric cuts and I look at fabric 1, I know what pieces to cut out of this fabric. So that's what these numbers are telling me. So I'm going to start cutting these out, and we can get them laid out and put together, and it shouldn't take very long, because if you're done with last week's, very constructed exactly the same. So let's get started. Just a reminder that your cutting instructions in the pattern are for 1 block and you need 2. So times all your cuts by 2. Just a reminder. And all seams are ironed open. Another reminder. Okay, I got all my pieces cut. For each colorway that I need, I did go ahead and put together these 2 blocks just so I could make sure the construction was exactly the same, and it is. I mean, exactly the same as last week's chunky cross. It is exactly the same, except for this center piece makes a square instead of a rectangle like last time. Plus, this is a bigger block than last time. But it goes together exactly the same. So in each set of colorways, you're going to have 8 of these squares. You're going to have 8 of the print rectangles, 4 of the solid rectangles, and 2 of the large rectangles. And this is how they get laid out. What I'm going to do this week is, last week I showed you how to do 1, but this week I'm going to show you how I'm going to do all 6 at the same time. I would have done all 8, but I want to show you how to do multiple ones at one time, or at least how I do that. So what I have is, in each one of these piles in this block layout, there's 2 pieces of fabric, so that I know when I pick it up and do it, I've got another one to do. So I'll be doubling every sewing seam, every seam in here. Now, what I've done over here is I'm not laying the block out like this. What I know I need for this row is 4 of these and 2 of these. So I put them together. For this and this, I need 4 of each. So that's what I have in this pile. And then these just sit alone. I have 8 of these. Same thing down here. This is the center row. 4 pieces of the small rectangles, 2 of the large, and then 4 each of the small rectangles in each color. So as I go along, I can just start grabbing from each pile and sewing them together, because these don't matter how you sew them together, because you can flip them the way you need them. So that's how I'm going to do all of these blocks at one time. Last time I did multiple blocks at one time and it saved a lot of time. So since the construction's the same, this is what I'm going to do this time, is show you how I do multiple blocks at one time. So what I'm going to do is just start putting everything together. So usually what I do is I would grab and take it over to my machine, but I want to show you, especially with this block, the pieces that I'm going to pull and chain piece at one time. So these center rectangles we're going to put together. And then I'm going to start doing the center also. And since we're chain piecing, there's only one side that I'm going to do. So in a block, that's what I'm going to be chain piecing first. So when I come over here, I can just grab 2 of these. So you see what I'm doing? So what I'm going to do is I will put all of these together. I'm just going to take these over to my machine, line them up and do it. I don't need to pin these. So that's how I do multiple blocks at one time. And I'm just going to leave it here. I'll probably speed up the video so you can kind of see the process. All these seams are going to be ironed open also. So I won't show you the ironing because that's a little bit tedious, but all seams are ironed open. So let's get started. right, there's my 3 blocks. Each of the rows have been assembled in each block. So now all we have to do is put our rows together. And when you're putting your rows next to your center one, make sure that this center rectangle is the same material as this one, so that you're making this floating cross. Because it's easy to just like work along and do it like that. So make sure you get it oriented correctly. And from here, I am just going to start, there's no seams to match. I'm just going to start putting all my rows together on all my blocks, at least the top and the middle. And then I will have the 6 pieces put together. So just like that, I'll have all of these to chain piece together. Alright, get these 6 sewn together, bring them back, and we will iron these seams open, and then we'll be ready to finish the block out. Alright, top half is sewn on. It's time to get the bottom half on. So, repeat what we just did, but with the bottom half. Sew it on, iron it open. Here is our floating cross block. We needed 8 of them in these 4 different colorways. And there you go. There's my 4 different colorways. These 2 are opposite each other, and then here's my yellow and my blue. They turned out really cool. I like them. Real easy to put together too. And I hope that I helped you be able to possibly just do them all at the same time, so you're not having to do 1 block at a time or whatever. But yeah, pretty much same construction as last week with the chunky cross, just a bigger block, and these are different too. So there we go. So I'm actually going to store my chunky, no, these are the floating crosses, with my chunky cross in this bag. So there we go, nice and safe in the bag, and I will put floating cross. So I know what's inside of this bag at the end when we're ready to do the sections. Alright, so next up are our striped blocks. And we need 2 of each. And probably the hardest thing about this block for me was picking the fabric out. Trying to look at the front and seeing which fabrics they used. So for this first block here, I went with the purple, or the dark pink and the lavender solids to make this one. This next one, I went with the dark lavender and the dark pink manganite fabrics. I couldn't tell on the front what they used. It kind of looked like a solid, but I didn't have any solids this color. So these are the 2 colors I'm using. Now this next one was a little more difficult. It calls for this red, and this is all I have left. I do not have enough left to do this red, especially when I got to do 2 of these. These two are for this block, and then I'm just gonna go crazy with the next one. I'm gonna do manganite and polka dot because the polka dot has red in it. So this will be this block right here for me. Are gonna be these two colors. And then this last one, whoops. And then this last one is going to be what it looked like to me. I know they use the polka dot and this dark orange. So that's going to be for this block. So there you go. That's my colors that I chose for these blocks. I think they're going to be beautiful, even though they aren't exactly what the front of the quilt shows on the pattern. I still think that, you know, it's still in the same color family and it's going to be gorgeous. So we just need to cut a bunch of rectangles. Remember that you gotta make 2 blocks, so you have to times your cuts by 2. And in this, all seams are going to be ironed open. So I'm going to get all my rectangles cut and I will meet you back here. One other thing I wanted to mention was there's no need to mark these 1 or 2 fabric because there's an even number in each one of these. So you're going to cut 2 of the dark and 2 of the light, same size. Okay, I got my cuts made. And for this first block, you're going to have 4 light pinks and 4 dark pinks, all the same size. For the next block, you are going to have 6 purples and 6 reds, or dark pink. For this next block, you're going to have 10 of the light red and 10 of the dark red. And then for this block down here, it's a little taller, so you're going to have 6 of the orange and 6 of the light orange. And all of this will make 2 blocks. We're going to be ironing, not ironing, I always say that. We're going to be sewing on the long edge. So what we can do to start with is just take all of our colors and sew each one to each other, the different colors to each other on the long edge. And then we'll have a pair, and then we can put those pairs together. Okay, I got all my strips paired up here, and I've got them in order that they are here in the book. And first thing I'm going to do is this first one is easy because we just need 2 strips that have 4. So make sure your colors are alternating, put them together, and we'll have our 2 strips done for that first color. So the second one has 6 strips or 3 pairs in each. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pair these up. And we'll have 1 left for each strip. So I'll set those up here. This one has 5 pairs in it. So we can get a couple out of this one. Make sure your colors are alternating. Same here. We'll get a couple of pairs put together and have 1 left over. That's gonna be pretty. I know it's not red, but it's still gonna be pretty. Set those over there to be sewn, and then each of these has 3 sets in it. So we'll pair up 2 of these and have 1 left in each one also. These colors are pretty too. So again, all seams are ironed open. I'm going to get these all sewn over here, bring them back, iron them open, then we get to put those on and we'll be done with our strips. So simple, so simple. All right, I got my first strip done here, which is just 4 alternating colors. So I'm going to set that aside. This is what the rest that I have done, all seams ironed open. So this second strip, we just need to add this last piece on. Remember to alternate the colors. And then this strip will be done. And then same with the orange one here. We just need to add this last pair onto each strip, and the orange one will be done. Now this one's longer, so we need to take each of these and pair them up. And then when we're done with this, we can add the last one. Make sure your colors are alternating. So we'll get all of this sewn up and ironed open, and we'll come back and finish this strip. All right, there we go. These 3 stripes are done. The only thing we have to do is add the last one to each one of these stripes, sew it on, and iron it open. Make sure your colors are alternating. Reminds me of a circus tent, these colors with the alternating stripes. So, sew, iron open. All right, wrapping up week 2. Mark it off our list there. Turned out great. I love the colors. I'm happy with the choices I made. I think it's going to look good in my quilt. Let me know if you made the same choices as me. Again, these colors will be on my website. The colors that I use. If you want to use the same colors, you can head to my website. I'll list out which colors I used. This is pretty easy to see, but I'm going to do it anyway. Not too hard this week. After the first week, that first block intersection, that took a while. This is a pretty easy week, so relish in the easy weeks because we have half square triangles coming up. I appreciate you. I appreciate you watching this video. So just a few things I want to show you that the only things I really needed to use in this video are, to make these blocks. Obviously I use these clips. Maybe you use pins, rotary cutter. I only needed the small ruler, my cordless iron, and my wool ironing mat. So that's about it. I use Orville thread, I use bottom line thread in the bobbin, and a standard stitch, 1/4 inch foot. That's all you need. Pretty easy. Let me know how it's going for you. And post pictures on my Facebook page on this post so I can see what your blocks are looking like. See what colors you chose. So again, I really appreciate you watching this video. I had fun making these blocks. I had fun making this video. And I will see you in the next video. Bye!